Very good. So let's call the meeting to order. This is the November 18, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Housing Authority. You've all received a copy of the agenda. So we'll do roll call. I think we've got that taken care of.
For the record, Terry Refsgaard is excused. Chairman,
okay.
She called in. She's not feeling well.
Okay, very good. Well, that's not good that she's not feeling well, but
we heard from her.
Yes, that's good. So we'll move on to item C, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion, and Aaron seconds. Any additions to the agenda? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye for approval. Any opposed? Hearing none. Item D, approval of the minutes of the October 21, 2021 meeting of the Green Bay Housing Authority, which was in your packet. Are there any additions? We got a motion to approve.
I second that.
And Aaron seconds again. Any additions or corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? Hearing none. All in favor of approval of those minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. On to regular business for this morning. Number one, consideration with possible action approving the development plan for RAD submission for the redevelopment of Mason Manor and scattered site housing. Cheryl.
All right. So I'm going to start out, and with me today we have Trent and Gavin from Gorman, and Caitlin from Baker Tilly are here. And these, of course, are our experts. But I want to start right with just how, and jump in if I'm wrong about this, right? Because this is a very complicated thing that's happening right now with our development project. So,
Jamie, with Baker Tilly.
Oh, what?
Baker Tilly. Gavin.
Gavin's with Baker Tilly. Okay. Sorry, Gavin. See, I can't see us, so you can't. Okay. Put your picture on there. All right. So, okay. As a housing authority, we originally decided to take our scattered site units, our 48 scattered site public housing units, and put them through the Section 18 process, which is taking them out of the public housing financing, right? And using project-based vouchers. And that would allow us to gather more rent and put more capital into those scattered site units, of which we'd plan it over the course of time to do that. As we made more rent, we'd get more capital, we'd do the rehabs. The second pot of public housing we have is Mason Manor, which we needed to do the major rehab on. So we are going forward with the RAD Section 18 blend on Mason Manor, and we've been working towards looking at Mason Manor as itself as an entity to do all of this redevelopment work. And the first proposal we had, our numbers came out to be that we'd be able to do $90,000 per unit at Mason Manor. And that covered the things that it needed to cover in Mason Manor. The elevators, fire pumps, plumbing, bathrooms, ACs, heating lines, the basics that needed to get done at Mason Manor, right? But it didn't give us a whole lot of room to do the extra amenities that we really wanted to do for tenants. So I'm not sure who came up with this idea, if this was Trent or whoever it was, but the team said, hey, what if we combine the scattered sites project and the Mason Manor project into one big project? If we do that, there's a possibility that would get us more money per unit to put into the project. So the powers that be, not me, our consultants and development team went through and did the numbers, and they said, hey, you know what? This does work. It is better for us to combine our scattered site project and our Mason Manor project. So we went from $90,000 per unit up to $113,000. Does that sound right? That we can spend per unit on this project. So that really increased the level of what we can do kind of in everything, but more importantly in Mason Manor, where we're going to be able to do some of the things like the fitness areas and the outside areas, libraries, security system, cameras, a lot of the other things we really want to get done, right? That the tenants will the tenants appreciate plumbing and heating, right? But they also appreciate those amenities, which makes Mason Manor a better place. So if we combine the project, and then I'm still in my head thinking scattered site, we got lots of time to do all these repairs to our 48 scattered site units. Come to find out, which is good actually, that when you combine them all into one project, it's all one project. So Mason Manor will be done along with the scattered site units. There's a time frame on when you can do that work, to 2 years, I think. So by combining this, we do everything. We upgrade everything in one fell swoop, Mason Manor and the scattered sites at the same time. So, and looking at this proposal, as scary of a prospect as that is, just from a scope of work, it's really a good thing for us to do because it gets us more money into the project to be able to do these repairs. One of the things I wanted to make sure the board was aware of, though, was that when we do this RAD conversion work through HUD, we pull properties out of our Faircloth agreement. So Faircloth is an allocated number of public housing units the city of Green has. So we have 204 what are called Faircloth units of public housing. Federal government's like, that's all we're going to fund for you in public housing is 204 units ever, right? When we do this project, we have to pull units out of that Faircloth. So we will not have 204 public housing funded units anymore. I think we're going to go down to 140. We'll be able to retain 140 public housing units in the Faircloth. So in looking at that, I was just doing some research and finding out that a number of public housing authorities aren't using all of those Faircloths because they're doing redevelopment projects. We think that's a good trade-off to do full remodels on scattered sites in Mason Manor and to still be able to keep 140 of those designated public housing units. And what that means to us is that when this is all over, not concurrently, may I add, when this is all done and we're all done, we have 140 units that we can create of public housing. So we can buy some more scattered sites, we could build some smaller, we could do elderly, whatever, and that could fall under public housing, 140 units. Go ahead, Bill.
Cheryl, let me just interject. Because of the significance of that, I'm wondering if we should, for the record, adopt a resolution that we acknowledge that we're going from the 240 to the 140 or whatever, and have that in the record that we acknowledge that that's happening and we approve that.
So it's 204, by the way. It's not 240.
Okay, so 204, whatever the number is. I'm just thinking that we should adopt as a board a resolution saying that we acknowledge doing that, or that's what's going to happen with this, and we approve that. So that if that ever becomes an issue in the future, probably not in my lifetime or anybody else's here, but at some point it might become an issue where somebody will say, well, and we would have a resolution in our formal record that says this is why we're doing that.
Can we do that today, Bill? If we didn't have
no, it's not on the agenda, so we'd have to do it at the next one. And I don't see that as being a problem doing it at the next one, at our December board meeting.
That's fine, formally recognizing that we're accepting the reduction. Can we talk about the reduction first?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other thing, can we add why? Because I think that's important, why we are approving this. Because are we acknowledging that we're approving it and all of a sudden we've lost all these units in public housing? But the reason we're approving it is then we can designate others to make up that, because that's what I was under the impression. So we had 200 and something, we're going down to this. If we put Mason Manor and the scattered sites into one, then we can use those lost sites to buy more in the area. So we know we can recoup those. So there should be an explanation as to why, not just that we're approving it, but why we're approving it, because we think it's going to be better for Green Bay as a whole. And we'll also have Mason Manor and scattered sites along with these other now ones that we can reach out and make public housing.
I'm piecing this together in my little itty bitty brain the best I can. But wasn't it conscious decision that we made when we first started talking about this in the first place, to keep them in separate buckets? And that was for, I don't remember if it was because we're gun shy or having a little separation there would allow us to, we looked at this, didn't we? I mean, like, I'm not dreaming that up. Didn't we entertain all of the sites and we came to a conscious decision as to why we were only doing one? And Cheryl?
No, I think we were only offered one, Steve, that we were only going to do Mason Manor.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
This was new. Actually, this was a new idea in order to get more money into the project, was to combine them. I mean, because we were on the track. I mean, we actually had the approval for the Section 18 scattered sites. We're just working on finalizing documentation. So we had gone a year in that process. The question really is it worth it? Does the board think it's worth to losing those 64 public housing units in order to do full remodels on Mason Manor and the 48 scattered sites? That's really the question, right?
Well, even that is financially, would it work if we didn't? I mean, I think we're kind of upside down if we don't start finding ourselves a way to maintain what we've got. And that to me feels like we've got more than we can maintain right now. So logically, the suggestion makes some sense. You can review actual dollars or otherwise, but just the philosophy of the concept, I'm not trying to argue that. I'm just want to make sure that we're not retracing steps that we already made some decisions on, or if
I don't think we really talked a lot about our fair cloth allotment and what that meant, right?
Fair.
First time I've heard it in a while.
So that's why I think it's right to Bill to, like, I want the board to recognize that. That's why I kind of want, because you already approved going forward with the RAD. I wanted to make sure the board was aware of going forward with the development and how it's set up is going to remove those units from Faircloth. We think as staff, we're like, okay with that, because we know that that's going to get us significant rehabilitation dollars, and still we'll have 140 to create 140 public housing units.
I'm clear, Cheryl, and I appreciate you stating it so honestly. That's huge. So dumb question. If we rearrange so that we fit into this other category, so that we're at 140 instead of 204, which is I think what we're actually discussing, does that close the door on the opportunity to have two different arrangements? Why can't we have these 64 plots under a different circumstance than is it only because we're going all RAD that we have to take this reduction? Why can't we be set up twice? What? Jamie raises her hand.
Okay. So I don't know if you guys saw that, Caitlin. If we can open the floor, I think she can explain this really well. But from my experience, like 2 years ago when we started the Section 18 transfer to scattered sites, we had HUD Reg X. And then in the last couple of months, they've updated it where they've changed some requirements or what you can and can't do, or if this building is this building, and then you have your scattered sites one, then it wouldn't be eligible for Section 18. Well, that reg has now been updated. So this would allow us to combine our projects because they are not just, they all fall into the Section 18. So yeah, I guess that's why we didn't really talk Faircloth when we just started Section 18, because it wouldn't have been affected 2 years ago. But now if we do a conversion, now they will be affected.
Nice. Okay. I'll take that. Sorry.
No worries.
So then I still have a question then. So 2 years ago when we started this, it looked like it would be a great idea. We have all that funding for rehab, get all that. Mm-hmm. We were taking some out of public, which then left that amount still in public that somebody could use, correct?
I believe so, right? When we first started.
So initially we'll lose that from the public, but the city can still go back and designate other housing as public housing as a result of those new empty spots created. Does that make sense?
Previously with the old HUD regulation, that's why we just focus on scattered sites.
No, so
Caitlin really wants to, I think
Yeah.
Caitlin really wants
I think we
to.
should make a motion to open the floor for Caitlin.
Better answer that
so
question.
but this is my question then, Caitlin. So we are taking scattered sites and Mason Manor. We're going to do them. We're going to combine them. Great. Taking them out of that, whatever you call it, fair share or whatever that is.
Fair
So
call.
we go from 204 down to how many?
140.
140. Okay. So that difference between 140 and 2004, the city can still use those spots to purchase other and put them in public housing. Oh, see, that's what I thought we were taking them out so that we would have more movement to make more public housing in Green Bay.
I think originally that was our thought concept.
Right.
Caitlin's
And that's
dying.
not
I
how it
will
is.
make
So
a
we're
motion
actually
to,
losing spots that we can't recoup in the fair share or whatever that is.
Fair cloth, correct.
Yeah. Oh.
can I make a motion to open the floor?
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second to open the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The floor is open.
Caitlin, straighten us out, will ya?
Well, first I want to apologize, right? So when, we started talking, this is something that I should have explained up front, right? Because in my head, I know RAD and I forget that not everyone knows RAD. So there's two separate kind of programs under HUD, right? Where you can do this type of conversion and do rehab to your projects. One is RAD and one is Section 18. So you've always been looking at your scattered sites to go under Section 18, which would preserve your fair cloth units. So you'd be able to kind of remove them from public housing, but still keep them in your fair cloth bucket so that you could replace those units by acquiring or building something new down the road. That's always kind of been in your plan. Awesome. So the RAD side, when we started talking Mason Manor, let's say we were going to do 100% RAD conversion, all 154 units. Anytime you designate as RAD, those fair cloth units are lost. So gone. You've converted, they're removed from public housing, you can't do anything new. And that's one of the drawbacks, I guess, to the RAD program. Yeah. So when we looked at it, we were like, let's do this 80-20 blend where 80% of our units would convert under Section 18, 20% under RAD. Those 20% would be gone. So under our initial plan, we would have lost 31 fair cloth, but kept the other 120, whatever that is, left. But then, we looked more into that language. And if we continued on that path, HUD actually has language doing that closeout blend that you can't develop any fair cloth units, which is obviously not something that you guys want. So we have now scrapped that idea and brought in, instead of a closeout blend, this concept of a construction blend. So instead of doing an 80-20 split at Mason Manor, we're now doing it would be, 80 is the Section 18. So it would be a 60-40 split where 60% of our units are converted under Section 18, 40% under RAD. So the drawback is we're going to lose a few more units to under our fair cloth. But the positive is that you can still do Mason Manor now. Otherwise, you'd be waiting to do Mason Manor until you've completed the scattered sites and replaced all of your fair cloth units. Does that help answer? So it's a trade-off, but it's probably the best possible trade-off to get everything that you want to get done at Mason Manor, do all of, great number of rehab at the scattered site units, plus still provide new units to the city of Green Bay.
So how do we provide new units, Caitlin?
There's a few options. One is called like a mixed income application, where you're kind of, they'll become public housing. You can create public housing units. You can still use, tax credits or some other mechanism. I think Ted's gone through that process once with Wausau. It's a little bit more of a complicated process. Otherwise, they have something new called fair cloth to RAD. So you can take your fair cloth units and do a RAD transaction right away. But the drawback is we're going to lose a few more units to under our fair cloth. But the positive is that you can still do Mason Manor now. Otherwise, you'd be waiting to do Mason Manor until you've completed the scattered sites and which is, I think, a little bit easier, a little bit more streamlined. But depending on your long-term goals, again, anything with RAD, you're going to lose fair clothability for those units. So that's something that, we probably would want to start thinking through once you kind of get this project done and you've got your fair cloth bucket, and kind of thinking through, do you want to acquire? Do you want to build new? Is it scattered sites again? Is it one building? And then you'd start getting into those. Am I doing a mixed finance application, or am I doing this fair cloth to RAD, or how am I creating these units?
So then in essence, Caitlin, we can add.
You can add.
That's what I was scared we were going to totally lose them all and not be able to add any in. That was my fear, because I thought originally it was like, wow, this was great. Look, we can take us out, but then we could put all these other ones back in, because we have just such a housing shortage in Green Bay the way it is, and it's affordable housing in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
but we'll be able to keep 140, Sandy.
Pardon?
We'll have 140 units in the public housing bucket.
Right.
That as a board, we will decide if, exactly like Caitlin had said, how we want to create public housing. A lot of ways to do that, right?
That's what, okay.
8 units, 1 unit, 20 units, 100 units.
Yeah. Great. So we'll have hours plus 140 more. No.
Well, when you say more, we have them. We're not losing them.
Yeah.
Correct. But we have Mason Manor and scattered sites. Let's not talk Mason Manor and scattered sites. Keep them out of the pot.
Yep.
How many more can we add?
We will still have 140 public housing
to add.
That we can build new.
Okay.
It's kind of floating up there.
That's what I need to know. Okay.
And we need to build it and fund it.
So super simply, we don't reduce from 140 how many we currently have. This is 140 as opposed to 200. I mean, we'd be so lucky. That sounds.
Yep.
No, that's what I mean. I just want to make sure we're able to do that, and that's just not restricted. Yep.
Correct.
Okay. So I just gotta, again, you gotta just slow this down for me, because I put things together. Right now we're talking about what happens if we combined our RAD with the scattered sites in Mason Manor. It changes the category we fit in on 204 versus 140, and we're focusing on this 204 versus 140.
Yep.
When are we talking about actually combining our scattered sites in Mason Manor on our RAD, right? Because that's still a thing we should discuss as a board, right? I mean, like that's the component I thought we looked at forever ago and decided against. And if Jamie's saying that we didn't because of how it was regulated at that time, and the regulations have changed, that sounds like HUD is starting to move on some of these, likely nationally, and they're encouraging it even further than what they understood 2 years ago. So this feels like they are further incentivizing this move for us. Is that an unfair conclusion to draw?
I suppose with the construction reins, I'm not sure. I mean, I can tell you my personal opinion is that I feel HUD would like to maybe get units out of Faircloth. And they're presenting ways to finance projects in public housing to do that.
Mm-hmm. I think if you went to HUD and tried to do like a Section 18 application on Mason Manor and tried to prove like cost obsolescence or something, they would try and force you into some type of RAD conversion. And to just address your other comment, there's going to be 2 separate applications to HUD and 1 separate application to WIDA. So you're still going to have your Section 18 app that you guys have all been working on for your scattered sites, plus this RAD application, which will be a Section 18 RAD construction blend. That's going to go to HUD as 2 separate. But then under WIDA's eyes, under the tax credit program, it's 1 project.
Because we're applying for the 4% non-competitive tax credits.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And by having it as 1 project in a tax credit world, as Orman was looking at, that's why they suggested this, is that you can do more rehab because you're combining them instead of doing 2 separate projects.
Did you see everybody, Bill, did you see everybody on the call recognizing that Cheryl just like passively slid me an answer to a different question? I'm like, oh, Oh, that's right. I'm dummy. Yeah. Okay. Super sorry. I'm in. I'm all in. I'm right on. Yeah.
Well, and what's nice is that when we were talking just Section 18 for scattered sites.
Yep.
We need to accumulate, we're going to be able to charge some higher rents. Tenants stay the same, but we'll get a bigger benefit rent. So we would have to wait time to accumulate the dollars to put back into the units, right? Because it's not going to happen blam. Doing it this way, it's all happening. We're fixing up the scattered sites within 2 years, roofing, siding, we're going to make them, right? Along with Mason Manor. So that's why I'm saying, oh, scary, right? Because it's a lot of work to do, but
a lot of project management.
It's a good thing, right? And we have good consultant and developer, which is great that we chose these guys, right? Because they know what they're doing. And this project would be managed. Gorman would manage this project with us, the rehabilitation of the scattered sites. So, we'd probably get one contractor or a couple, right? So, yeah, it's a big project, but I think it's the best thing for our units, especially because
you said,
our gut remodel was 30 years ago, I think, right? On the units.
113,000 per unit as opposed to 90,000 per unit, right? So Steve math, that's 20%. That's a big increase. Thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Also went from just Mason, so it was just Mason Manor 90,000, and now it's Mason Manor and scattered site at 113. So we're adding 48 units of redevelopment plus additional dollars per unit.
There was never 90,000 per unit for scattered sites under straight Section 18.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
So total number of pillows increased and total value per pillow increased. That's yeah. I mean, that's faster than Steve math works for anybody, especially in public, but I get it. That's a big ask. Okay.
Gavin, Trent, did we miss anything in all of this discussion?
No, I think everyone has the right idea. So I think the one thing to acknowledge, though, is that, that $90,000 figure that you are talking about. I think, some people have been saying different things about the fair cloth, and it's really confusing. But basically, under that $90,000 assumption, that assumes that you are closing out the public housing program, and that there will be 0 units in the fair cloth after that conversion, and you wouldn't be touching the scattered sites. But I guess this solution, obviously, like you all have alluded to, increases the number of units you're doing rehab on. It increases the per unit rehab dollars, and it preserves the maximum number of fair cloth units. So you go from $90,000 of rehab on 154 units and 0 units in your fair cloth to significantly higher rehab dollars per unit, 100 and on 102 units and 142 units in your fair cloth, I think. So it's really just, it's really just those scattered site rents, because those are all going to be vouchers, are significantly higher than the 1-bedroom RAD and Section 18 rents in Mason Manor. So it was just, yeah. But otherwise, I think everyone has arrived at the correct on hearing. I think.
To quantify your numbers, Steve, we're looking at about 13 million originally. With the new numbers and the new units, we're looking at 23 million. So that's a $9 million increase.
Woof. Okay, right on. That's.
Any other questions before we move to close?
I'm just happy we're able to get more units.
Before we move to close the floor.
Sorry, Bill.
That's all right. We want to get everybody's questions answered.
Yes. Better more questions than, right?
Yes.
I'd rather have the discussion.
Any more questions? All right. Then is there a motion to close the floor?
I'll make that motion.
All right. And I will second. All in favor of closure of the floor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are back into regular order of business. So we are at consideration with possible action. Approving the development plan for the RAD submission. for the redevelopment of Mason Manor and scattered site housing. That looks to me like we need a motion to approve.
So can I make a motion with the caveat that we have a resolution to acknowledge that we reduce our fair cloth, blah, 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 from 204 to 140?
I will second that. All right. So any further questions on this before we act?
Just, is it fair claw cost? How do you spell the word?
It's fair cloth. It's like two words together, fair cloth.
So CLOTH or CL? Okay, so fair cloth, like a piece of fabric. Okay.
I think it's the last name of someone, a senator or, right?
Is it? It's not an acronym. I'm so proud of you guys. That's awesome.
Not.
That is awesome.
I was trying to think of what the acronym might be.
Yeah.
And I was getting nowhere with it, and my mind was starting to hurt. So, all right. So we've got a motion on the floor in a second for approval. All in favor of approval of this redevelopment of Mason Manor and scattered site housing under a RAD submission, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Cheryl, and everybody else.
Yeah.
Now Cheryl's going to have to take a sigh and start really going to work.
Yeah. Thank you. Keep us posted, Caitlin, Trent, Gavin, if we need to do anything, but otherwise proceed.
Yeah. Super thankful for your input.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 2 under regular business, and that is consideration with possible action regarding flat rate rents and utility allowances to be effective January 1 of 2022. Scary, we're talking about 2022 already, but here we go.
All right. So I bring this to the board every year. Historically, HUD publishes their flat rate rents around October, and we have to analyze them, look at them, and see how we want to proceed with our 2022 flat rents. Historically, we've always adopted Brown County's / Integrated Community Solutions utility reimbursement chart. So I don't know how, but HUD said for Brown County, no other surrounding counties, our rents decreased. Where if you're in the rental market or looking, rents have significantly increased in our community. So they've decreased 1 to 5% depending on the bedroom size in our community. And as you know, rent has significantly increased. So historically in the past, we've always adopted 80% of the fair market rent that HUD has published. However, to stay comparable and competitive, I've looked at Brown County's voucher payment standards, 100% rent guaranteed. So I have redid the utility allowances to match them, and then put our rents at the voucher payment standards, which is roughly around 90 to 95% of the HUD approved fair market rents. Like I said, we've historically stayed at 80%, but I think with the market, we need to increase it. I have reached out to a few other public housing authorities in Brown County, and they are taking 100% of the fair market rents. So my motion or request is to approve the new proposed rents and utility allowances for 2022. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. It's a lot of comparing, looking, what are we allowed to do?
So Jamie, what does this mean for our tenants?
So we have a few that pay the flat rate rent because 30% of their income is more than the flat rate rent. So if their rent increases more than 25%, they will be phased in. However, we do not have any tenants at Mason Manor or scattered sites that it would be 25% more of their rent. So in what our contracted rents will be, tenants will always still pay 30% of their rent unless 30% of their income is more than the contracted rent amount.
Okay. We don't have many of those tenants. that for some reason their income has become higher.
Correct. Yep. So
Right.
tenants will remain, continue to pay 30% of their income. I don't know if everybody saw Stephanie's message or just she sent it to me, but Brown County is appealing HUD's decision of the voucher payment standards because they are so low. Like I said, Brown County is the only one that decreased, where all of our surrounding counties have increased. So they are appealing those amounts.
Well, that's a lot to unpack, Jamie. Hold on a second.
Yes.
You are making this request because they redid the values assigned to us, or
Yep. So every year HUD publishes fair market rents for your area.
yep.
So every year we have to reevaluate our utility allowances and our flat rate rents.
Okay. And we're doing that with the understanding that they just pulled the wool out of some of it, which Brown County is appealing. Is that something we should also entertain?
We do not have voucher payment standards, so we wouldn't be in like the party to fight it. Yep, because they're Section 8 and we're public housing.
Okay, I see.
But really what's happening with the lowering of that rents, if I'm right, Jamie, is that our tenants are paying the same 30, but we're not getting a subsidy. That difference subsidy from the federal government is less because they've determined the rents are lower.
Right. Yeah.
So unfairly they're right. And we use that for capital improvements and right. So we want those rents to be fair.
Yep.
In the county because we're competing and we also need the difference between that tenant's 30% and the top of that rent line to use that pool of money for cap improvements.
Huh. Sandy, Bill, Aaron?
Yeah. I get it. I get it.
I get it.
And to throw so if we go project-based vouchers on our scattered sites in Mesa Manor, we automatically get 110% of the fair market rents. So our rents will increase, we'll make more money because we're guaranteed that 70% subsidy, guaranteed it. So that's fun too. So that's even more money that the GBHA could potentially make in the future.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Stephanie. And
okay.
Jamie. All right. Any questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
I motion that approve.
And I will second. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? Or need for clarification?
Sorry, I'm rocking.
All right. So we've got a motion and a second. No further questions. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Now we move on to the informal part of our agenda, and that is GBHA bills. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
All right, those were in your packet. As I had alluded to last month, there was a check sent to Liberty Title, an abstract for those, I don't know, they were
title commitments for our scattered sites.
Yep, so that's actually in there if you see it. So, but we had talked about it last time. Otherwise, there's really nothing else exciting. In November, though, we did have the final payment go out to the Broadway Lofts project, finally. So that should be all wrapped up with that project then, and then we'll just wait for our payments to come back in.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Hearing none, we will move on to the financial report.
I'm fighting my mouse here. Okay. That was in your packet also. I don't know if there's any questions on that.
No, none on my end.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I just got my final audit report, so that should be coming either in December or January, whichever time we have a meeting.
Okay.
Which will give you our year-end wrap-up for last year.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Again, any questions for Stephanie? Hearing none, we will then move on to the Langen report.
So that is in your packet. There's nothing crazy to report, just typical backgrounds for applications coming on top of the waiting list.
Yeah. Right. All right. Any questions for Jamie on the Langen report? Hearing none, then we'll move on to the director's report.
Well, staff has been a little busy working through some very complicated matters for housing authority stuff, but I can tell you that we have an RFQ out to 3 attorneys that we found that specialize in RAD Section 18 blend work. Our law department is working with us on that, so we sent those requests out for proposals this week. So we should get a response on like hourly wages, that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's a new acronym.
I'm sorry, which one?
RFQ. I've heard of RFP, but not RFQs.
Request for qualifications.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
thank you.
So we had hoped there might have been someone in the law department pool of attorneys that they contract out with that had experience, but we didn't have any.
Oh.
So we're going to have to go out and find that, which is okay. That's fine. We want somebody who's going to make sure they represent the GBHA. And then an update on UvHigh. We had a public hearing. We had 3 attend that were all in support of the housing on campus. And then I think the next step is that they're going to be going to the Plan Commission, maybe. And then after that Plan Commission, it's, I think, council and financing will be done, hopefully. So we'll know maybe more next year to see where they're at. I think this isn't a done deal because I think they still need to do numbers and all that kind of fun stuff. So hopefully it will move forward, but that's what I know.
Okay. Anything further for the director's report? I just want to jump in here a little off topic, but several years ago, GBHA and Brown County used to be pretty merged together and do a lot of things together. In that process, thanks to Keith Pamper, and I got involved in doing the legal work for Brown County on the Section 8 housing fraud violations. And one of the big cases we had several years ago, Stephanie might remember some of this, was a lady. We actually took her to trial and she appealed, it went up to the Court of Appeals and we won at the Court of Appeals. Lady's name was Dominique Wilson. I don't know if you saw in the paper yesterday, Dominique was the lady that was shot and killed at the gas station down the street here.
Oh my God.
Same Dominique Wilson.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Bill, I feel I worked with you on that case.
Yes.
Like when 10 years ago when I was at Brown County. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that was the lady that
What
I just saw it in the paper. I saw it in the paper last night. I mean, she looks different because she. Very nice picture of her in the paper. She had blonde hair, but that was the same lady, Dominique Wilson.
wow.
So anyway, just a little diversion off topic here, but
Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
yeah,
Yeah, what a downer.
downer Bill here, but just wanted to let you know it's the same lady because some of us like Jamie and I think Stephanie might have been involved back in those days too.
Yeah.
Cheryl, I don't know if, but so
think I
we all
was.
dealt with this lady in her appeal and it went to trial twice and we had a fairly lengthy appeal process. So
And who ended up
anyway,
winning?
we did.
Huh.
The housing authority did, Brown County Housing Authority.
Okay.
I don't know if she ever paid off her judgment, but I don't think it's going to happen now.
Yeah.
not to be facetious about it, but anyway,
Yeah.
so, all right, moving on, we'll move on to the occupancy report. Jamie?
Okay. Ooh, yep. So that's in your packet. Like I mentioned last month, October and November were very busy with us for move outs. We have been doing our due diligence to refill some of these units. Some of them were longer tenants. So we have painting, carpeting, some more than normal repairs, but we are filling them and moving on and being rock stars like usual.
Okay. Any questions? Looking good, but keep it up. Keep working at it. All right. Then I think if there's no questions, we're looking at item number 6, which is the next date for our next meeting is December 16th, 2021. And we are ready for adjournment. So is there a motion? Oh, yes, Cheryl.
So I'm thinking, Bill, do we want to adjourn this meeting and then just start the next meeting?
Yes.
Which is the GBHA Properties 1, Inc.?
Yes.
Okay.
So don't
I stay
anybody
in this
leave.
building.
Don't click
Nobody leave.
off.
Oh, I forgot.
It'll be
You
fast.
have enough?
Forgot all about that piece. I'm like, what are you talking about? Should I just jump off?
Yeah. No, don't jump off.
So good
Stay
thing you
with
said
us.
that, Bill.
Yeah, stay. Well, no, it was Cheryl reminded me. I had my note here about it, but it's buried under some paper, so I probably would have logged off too.
So
So,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
all right. And then just for the public record on this part of it, let's all have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And then is there, so all in favor of adjournment? No, I'll second the motion to adjourn. And so all in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.